with other people, uh, 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 was the best way to organize this webinar. Uh, since the incidence of COVID-19 or coronavirus has been on different sections of society, the idea this, the incidence, what incidence it is having on different of the society, what the state is doing, what the people are doing about it. So we have organized this webinar to discuss. I let me introduce my committee. The Ambedkar Social Justice Committee has been organizing various events in the college to apprise the students about the ideology, the ideas of Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, who had devoted his uh, so I would just like to introduce my committee also. You know, Amit Kumar is from English department and he is today. And without his tech support, webinar would have not been possible. Now I and other data department. Seema Taneja, if she is online. Oh, it's fine then.
Yes, and she is online. She is online.
She is online.
She's online.
She's there, but she is muted.
There's an audio issue. I can't hear you properly.
Yes, there is an audio issue.
Seema Taneja ma'am is here.
Acha. And then Shilpa is from Commerce Department. And Tulsi Chauhan from History Department. They are our faculty who are members of this committee. And then we have students, let me tell you, student coordinators. And they are Srishti, I will tell you the names because they might not feel ignored. There are 7-8 students. There are Srishti, Anu Gupta, Tanya. So 7-8 students are there. So I thank all of them for extending their cooperation and support for organizing this webinar. This is about discussing Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar's ideas in context of this pandemic COVID-19. Because Bhimrao Ambedkar himself had said that ideas need to be propagated. So we are trying to take a small step in this direction because once I was reading his quotation, he said, "Men are mortal, so are ideas. Ideas need propagation the way plants need watering. Otherwise, both will wither and die." So I am happy that we will not let his ideas die. His ideas will be eternal and universal, and they are relevant even today during this hard time of pandemic. So this is, I would like, I have already introduced, like, I am not now getting the names of the student coordinators: Tanya, Anupra, Himanshi, Nishatri, Shalini Gautam, Yukti Sharma, Srishti, Unyal, and Tanya Goyal. So without taking so much of time, let me come to the speakers. And today, because Hina, our principal, has already welcomed you, so I think it is fine now. And now I would like to invite, first of all, Professor Y.S. Saloni. Professor Y.S. Saloni teaches at he is professor at Visual Studies, School of Arts and Aesthetics, JNU. He studied from Nagpur and Baroda and he had obtained his research degrees from Center for Historical Studies, JNU. He has written widely on ancient Indian art, new Buddhist visual culture. He is a critique of Walter Spink, who had studied, Walter Spink was a professor at Michigan, and he had studied Ajanta caves, and he has critiqued his hypothesis. He is best known for his concept of protected ignorance. He was nominated as ICCR chair visiting professor in Shenzhen University, China. He has delivered lectures widely in India and abroad. He has been a member of various committees, academic bodies, and government committees both. He is actively engaged in social movements. His book is Early Western Indian Buddhist Caves, Forms and Patronage, came from Kaveri Books, New Delhi in 2016. He has also contributed many chapters and articles in edited volumes. We are delighted to have him as speaker today. He will speak about discourse of care, social and political. So we all know a little about Baba Saheb's ideas about care, because he cared for the marginalized communities. He cared for those who were deprived. So he cared for economic well-being, education, and health of the marginalized communities. During this time, I think Professor Eloni will be giving us meaningful talk about his ideas of care. So over to Professor Eloni.
Thank you, Dr. Sandhya, and good afternoon, everyone. And thanks for giving me this opportunity hosting this rather webinar. And going to be very different kind of an experience these days in this Corona pandemic. And I hope I'm quite audible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole idea of like the discourse of care, which is social as well as political, and one has to really think as to how this particular care has evolved in British India, because what one notices is that with the coming of the imperial government, with the coming of the British government and the colonial power, there has also been an introduction of healthcare system in India, and this healthcare system started with the number of hospitals that began to be built mostly in Kolkata, Chennai, then Mumbai, and then followed by the rest of the cities in India. Now, when it comes to Dr. Ambedkar, like how he differs and where he differs, and whether what exactly he really aspired for. Now, one has to see the nature of incident. By the way, how much time I have?
20 minutes.
Huh?
20 minutes.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So one has to see as to how his life moved, and what his own lived experiences, the societal issues, the kind of a discrimination which was being practiced in the society. So therefore, all these cognitive experiences and the cognitive realities became very important in his own life, and the ways in which his thought structure progressed, and the ways in which he formulated his ideas. Now, one has to see as to how his education was. He studied in India. He was the first person to get matriculation among the scheduled caste community of that time. And then he afterwards then he moved to Columbia after necessary education in India. And at the same time, like let me also remind the viewer that when he got his matriculation, he was felicitated publicly by his own community, and his own teacher, who was from different community, had donated him the book on Buddha. So very interesting that in the just after 11th, that because 11th was the matriculation time of that time, and he got the book of on Buddha, and he had read that book. The name of the teacher was Keduskar, so he's popularly known as Keduskar Guruji. And then he moves on. Then he goes to Columbia. He obtains his PhD there. He gets exposed to the black movement, the democratic system there, and the ways in which America was progressing during that time. It's very interesting that like he though he studied economics, but he also studied other subjects, because you also had to study other subjects along with your main subject. That is a kind of a system Columbia had. It was a very interdisciplinary kind of a system. And then he moves on to London, then he comes back and he starts practicing in India. Now, it was also a time, it was a very tough time, it was a very hard time for him, in the sense that even the house would not have enough fuel to cook. So before it gets light, his wife Ramabai would get up in the morning and go and collect cow dung. So and lot of other stuff, so that it can be used for the cooking purpose. So he had that kind of a hard life, and when he came back, they were staying in the Bandra Chawl. And despite working here and there, and despite working in the Sydenham College and all of that time, he still had no sufficient money for himself or for his family. So prior to 1926, there were 3 kids which died soon after the birth, whereas there was another kid which was born, that was the 4th kid, and Dr. Ambedkar had named he was very fond of that kid, and he named him as Rajaratna. So Rajaratna got ill, and he had no money to take him to the hospital or to the doctor. The whole night he hugged his son, and his son died in his own arm. Now, see the condition of that time of Dr. Ambedkar. No any political leader of that time faced this kind of hardship. Whatever political leaders we have, none of the political leader of that time really faced this kind of a hardship or this kind of difficulties. While in London, all others would talk about the freedom movement and everything, and would even ask Dr. Ambedkar to join their protest and all. Dr. Ambedkar was more busy in his pursuit of knowledge, and he refused to be part of it, and therefore, like, he is always criticized for that. But today, when we see all those things, we can easily make out as to how he prioritized himself during that time. So the Rajaratna, his own son, died in his arm. This happened on 19 July 1926, and the family, Dr. Ambedkar, even had no money to buy anything like the cloth and everything that was required for the last ceremony. So, so what Ramabai did was that she teared off her own long sari, which is we call in Marathi we call it as lugda, and the body was wrapped, and then it was wrapped in the bed sheet, and then it was taken to the and the community had taken for the cremation. So imagine a person who studied in US, who studied in London, had absolutely no money, had no access to any medical care, had absolutely no facilities at home, neither at home nor he could afford it, nor he could buy those kind of facilities. So he had that kind of hardship, and he indeed realized from there itself that as and when he would get an opportunity, he would certainly fight for the rights of the people, and rights not only in a political terms but also in a social term. So when Dr. Ambedkar became the member in the Provincial Assembly, it was during that time constantly he was pursuing the agenda of care as to how government has to take responsibility of people's health care, and the ways in which even the doctor community was treating untouchables. I mean, the doctor, the entire medical fraternity were also followers of untouchability, and the untouchables absolutely had no civic rights during that time, and he had to launch even the basic civil right of access to water and lot of other things. So it was during that time when he was in the Provincial Assembly, he started talking about how the state has to bear this responsibility of medical health care. Now the next step that comes in, I mean, I'm not going to narrate his entire life, but rather I would like to stick to the aspect of this particular care. When he becomes labor minister, so his contribution as a labor minister was phenomenal. None of the so-called the labor leaders or the socialist leaders or the so-called Marxist leader during that time ever demanded the casual leave for the labor, or ever demanded the wage parities in the among the labor, or even for that matter ever demanded the this maternity care leave for the women worker. And Dr. Ambedkar as a labor minister initiated these programs and made it compulsory for everyone, for all the laborers. And the definition of the term labor is not the way we understand today. Even I, you, and lot of other people who are in the doing any kind of a job, whether it is a private sector or it is a government sector, they are all considered as labor, and that is how these welfare initiatives were made by Dr. Ambedkar, and that is how today we have the maternity leave, the casual leave, the earned leave, and so on and so forth, and also the medical care. Now, how that medical care also comes in for the labor? He forced the contractors of that time to take care of the labor's health and force them to open some kind of a small health center, which is in Delhi known as Mohalla Clinic today. So this concept of Mohalla Clinic, which was started by this Delhi government, so the original concept goes in the initiatives of Dr. Ambedkar, where he forced the contractors to have some kind of to provide some kind of a medical facilities in, and also build primary schools for the welfare of, for the education of the labor's children during that time in British India. It was a major leap. It was a major event of that time, which none of the leader, including those of the, whether it is Iron Man or the Mahatmas and all those people, ever really thought of, or for that matter ever demanded the British government that you must have those kind of things, irrespective of the fact that they were also part of the governing council of the of that time. So one has to see as to how Dr. Ambedkar worked while he was a labor minister, and when it came to the writing of the draft plan, which is very important in order to understand what should be the nature of care of that time. And it is in that draft plan where he proposed that the key industry should remain with the government, like power, railways, then some of the transport sector like the state transport sector or the national transport sector, and the ship industry, the major ship industry, then the building of the railways. And he also proposed during that time that the infrastructure, building of the infrastructure should lies with the government and not with the private players. This was very clear in his draft plan. And it is in the same draft plan, he also envisaged that there should be hospitals and there should be a proper healthcare system which will be accessible to the whole citizens of the country. Now, when it comes to when it comes to the making of the constitution, what one notices is that the ways in which Dr. Ambedkar proposed certain, actually the whole idea of fundamental right, the whole idea of certain facilities and so on and so forth in the constitution. So he ensured that the state becomes a responsible state, that the state cannot evade its responsibilities, and the state cannot have a discriminatory attitude. This is what he initiated in the constitution. And therefore we also notice that lot of cases are filed in the High Court, in the Supreme Court, based on the fundamental rights and the state's welfare measures and the directive principles, and that is how people make the government to act accordingly or to fulfill its responsibilities. So this is by and large the ideas of Dr. Ambedkar which he had initiated, and perhaps if those measures would not have been there, probably we would have faced such a tremendous problem as far as healthcare is concerned, because large number of the population have no access to healthcare. Neither they have any money, or they have any kind of a support system through which they could access to the healthcare system. And therefore his conceptualization of the government functioning included the establishments of hospitals. And it is under this process, in the post-independent India, the governments had established large number of district hospitals, government district hospitals. This is how it happened in India. So health became a priority, and lot of epidemics like cholera was an epidemic, malaria was an epidemic, and lot of these epidemics which were there in India, they were being tackled by these government agencies, the government hospitals, and the people who were actually involved in the basic healthcare system. So today, if we are facing the problem, we are facing the problem precisely because the ways in which the healthcare system has moved from and the ways in which the whole lot of this privatization has happened. See, today even the Europe is under tremendous pressure. They are under the tremendous pressure of Americanism, because Americanism is all about private sector. Like, you give everything to the private sector and the private sector will take care of everything. Whereas in the European system, it is not so. Lot of European system, lot of European countries have their own healthcare system which is under the government. And what one notices is that as and when your health is taken care of, the productivity increases, because the person who is working will not have botheration as far as his health is concerned, if there is a proper agency and if those things are taken care of. Today we face problems because the ordinary citizens of this nation, I'm not talking about any community, I'm not talking about any particular community, I'm talking about each and every citizen of the Republic of Government of India. Even today, like, even if Mr. Ambani gets ill, or for that matter any industrialized gets ill by the disease like COVID, even his own hospital may not admit him. He will have to go to the government hospital. Just imagine the kind of a plight we are facing these days. And therefore, the functioning of the healthcare becomes very, very necessary. And it is through these means the citizens can be taken care of, their life can be taken care of, and access to healthcare becomes very, very important means. See, to me, it is very important to have a parameters of development. You know, what are the parameters of development? Parameters of development is access to sanitation, second, access to healthcare, third, access to education, and fourth, respect for women. Now, Dr. Ambedkar says that I will judge any society, a good society, by seeing how much a woman is respected and taken care of. That is how he sets a kind of a parameter in and that becomes a sort of an Ambedkarian framework in the idea and study of care. So when it comes to Europe, you will notice that the European governments, almost the whole of the Europe, they have maintained this governmental care system, and today the US had to issue an order to all the hospitals that they will be forced, they are forcing the entire hospital machinery, whatever hospitals they have, that they will have to admit those COVID patients and so on and so forth. On the other hand, when it comes to the government hospitals, it becomes the responsibility of the state, and therefore you will notice that all the care, all the initiatives are being done on the part of the government hospitals, on the part of the government, and not on the part of the so-called the claimed claimed private sector. Everybody knows that private sector in India is all about systemic loot, and the healthcare is also becoming a systemic loot. Everybody knows as to in Delhi, like if you go to hospitals like Safdarjung or any other government hospital or even the Mohalla clinics and all, And if you go to max, so how much money you have to, or the 40s, or how much money you have to pay for that, for your own healthcare. I mean, the the government rate of what is that, dialysis is only 1800, whereas those hospitals charge some whopping 5,000, 8,000, 10,000 for the for the dialysis. So one has to understand this particular mode of functioning, and therefore what in India, Dr. Ambedkar was knowing well that the majority of the population is a poor population, that the majority of the population have no access to healthcare, and therefore he initiated this in the draft plan, which became part and parcel of the government policies by the first government, and the planning commission and everything was formulated based on the draft plan, which Nehru never acknowledged it, or even Congress government never acknowledged it. And then through those plannings, the hospitals were constructed, the state governments constructed a lot of those hospitals, and that is how the care was made accessible to the people. So the whole idea is not only it's a social idea, but also there is a politics involved in it. You know, if there is a political morality, then the political morality will always create a sense of the social responsibility. But if there is no political morality, the idea of sense of responsibility cannot emerge. And that is how I see politics in India as Ambedkar and anti-Ambedkar. So the ways in which the policies and the structure of the government functions, and the ways in which only certain people are offered olive branch, and they are the one who are minting money, whereas the you know, there is a fantastic coinage of the term, or the functioning of the government has been observed by Akriti Bhatia. She says, who is a Delhi-based researcher, who says that while the profits are privatized, the losses are nationalized. And what we see is that the successive governments, is not only this government, but I'm saying the successive governments fail to create the infrastructure which we require for our basic healthcare facilities, and also they have not been able to empower the ordinary citizen to have an earning capacity. So the ordinary citizen never said ki I want this hospital or that hospital. The ordinary citizen always cared for access. Whether you have created that kind of an empowerment to have an access to this healthcare, that becomes very fundamental, and that becomes very important. And this is what we are observing in this COVID crisis, as to how there is a collapse of the system, and how we are ill prepared in any kind of a eventuality of this kind of a pandemic, or even for that matter, how it has become extremely difficult, because the behavior of the citizens is also equally important. The citizen of the Republic of Government of India does not have the idea of self-responsiveness, and this self-responsiveness comes if there is a morality, if there is a political morality, if there is a resolve to be moral citizen of this nation and love for this nation. Because by merely saying that I love my country, I love this, I love that, or I'm very proud, doesn't make any sense without really creating the structures where the citizens will indeed have a pride, indeed will have a sense of attachment. So the sense of attachment comes only through the social responsibilities, and this comes only through the fraternity, and fraternity is all about Maitri, and that Maitri comes only through the idea of compassion and respect for each and every citizen among the or the fellow citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Aloni, for such a good talk. And what I understand is that you are trying to suggest that there is a gap between the theory and the practice. Whatever the reasons are there, political morality, lack of social responsibility, but there is a wide gap between what Dr. Ambedkar had prescribed and what is being given to the common citizen, ordinary citizens of India. It is where I believe the role of civil society comes in. When people are not feeling socially responsible, when government is not having political morality, just by laying down certain principles, certain provisions in the constitution is not going to solve the problem. So the role of civil society is very important. Civil society is not a new term. It has been in debate, discussion, though in ancient Greece, our old, very old, great philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, and they had talked about the civil society. They found that there was no gap between the state and the society, because probably whatever the reason, state was doing everything for the welfare of the people. So when we come to medieval times, the difference between state and the society was growing, and the philosophers still insisted role of state in order to avoid chaos and anything. So when we move from pre-modern times to modern times and till date, there has been an evolution and changes in the definitions and understanding of civil society. We include religious institutions, trade unions, trade organizations in the civil society who work for getting the dues for the common people. So whatever has changed, but there are three basic features, three major goals which a civil society, even in the contemporary society, aims at securing is it is idea of equality, fraternity, and liberty. And Baba Saheb had said that they are not exclusive. They are linked to each other, and a certain kind of balance is to be maintained in order to have a happy and ideal society. So it is during the time of the pandemic which we had in 1896 and 1988, when the colonial administrators and the elite communities were trying to protect their lives, they were trying to safeguard their interest, the civil societies came forward to protect the lives of the labor class. So that is what we have to see, because the context is this corona pandemic, and we have seen how the migrant laborers, the people who did not have homes, how they had faced the incidence of this pandemic, and what the civil society has been doing. So of course we know Gurudwaras came forward, many organizations, NGOs came forward to help. We have been doing charity. But in this context, I will invite Professor Ravindra R. Patil, who's going to give us in detail about the role of civil society in context of this pandemic. So Professor Patil is professor in the Department of Social Work, Faculty of Social Sciences, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Apart from teaching, he is actively engaged in research and publications. So far, he is credited with 3 major research projects, more than 25 national and international publications, which include research articles and policy papers. He has also edited a volume, Dalit Christians in India. His own book is Empowering Dalits, Non-Governmental Organizations in Western India, it came from Manak Publications Private Limited. He has been participating in seminars and conferences throughout India and also, I think, abroad. He has also been serving in different administrative positions in the different universities and in government bodies. During 2012 and to 2014, he was head Department of Social Work and he was Dean Social Sciences in Central University of Rajasthan. His area of interest include development studies, marginalization, social exclusion, and civil society. So today he is going to talk about it is epidemics, the state and the civil society, relevance of Dr. Ambedkar's perspective in times of COVID-19 pandemic. We welcome Professor Patil. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sandhya, for giving me this an opportunity to speak in this webinar. I cannot see many of the participant viewers. Good afternoon to all of you. After hearing Professor Alone, who spoke about the largely the work as well as the devotion and commitment of the Dr. Ambedkar towards the various aspects of the society and various issues of the society. And that is itself is one way one can say the Dr. Ambedkar in a largely into the academic arena talked and said about the savior of Dalit liberation and Dalit leaders. I think he was beyond that. He was, in a true sense, the patriot. He was the more nationalist, and he not only seen people or his only one his own community, but then he was more concerned, careful about the largest citizen of this country, and this is what the kind of the understanding have been developed over the period of time to look at him as the person who has been the social philosopher who was thinking about the larger social issues. So I'll deal with his views in the context of the pandemic, or for that matter, the kind of the present situation we have in India about the coronavirus. But then there was also the situation during 1918 in India, something called as the Spanish flu. In 1918, the scholars of history, they might be aware about. But then going into detail, I just would like to talk about this entire concept of social care. And this particular social care which we talked about is considered to be a normative and the more moralistic approach towards the fellow being, but it has its own genesis in the family and then family members who take care of the family members because they have an emotional attachment with it and they would like to do it, give everything to the child or to whom they love and care for. So kind of activity or service delivery, you will find over the period of time has been divided or has been gone into the different sector. Like there is something called civil society, or the care which has been taken care by the market, the care has taken care by the state, as well as the care which is in the family. When I see these 4 different sectors, you will find the social care is different from the different sectors' perspective. When I talk about the family, it is more emotions are there. and the social care and the care of the family members are there just out of the blood relation and because of the individual's emotions towards it. But the whereas when it comes to the market, market means for the production, distribution, consumption, and ultimately it is something earning the money. So care which is provided in the family has its different domain and the purpose than the care which has been given by the market, which is because of almost the profit making. While coming to the state, state meant for the ruling the society, and it is the different type of states. It's a totalitarian state, authoritarian state, democratic state, and state through different policies, programs, schemes take care of the social care of the citizens. While coming to the civil society in toto, it's a basically communitarian place. It is a space between state and the market. And this space called civil society more believes in communitarian values, that is the well-being of the others, well-being of the citizen, well-being of the deprived section. And they serve those who are deprived or marginalized group out of their own concern, their own collectivity, with their own public sphere, that they would like to devote their certain services to the society. So when I take these four areas where the family, civil society, state, and the market, they have their different domain. So what I would like to say, the trend basically in the social care has been shifted and shifted over the period of time because of the different sector has come into the existence and they have their different motives. The care which is supposed to be there in the community and society, which has gone into the hands of the state, and whereas after 1990, after adopting the new economic policy, it has been absolutely been privatized. So as been my previous speaker already talked about the how private sector has made the mockery of the social care. I will say that that is what the largely the neoliberal economy and neoliberal values we have adopted, not only in India, but the various countries, Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, and African continent and South Asian continent. It has become the more the market got into the social care, there was the scene which has been developed, which is that care became the more for the profit making rather than for the giving service to the society, or it is something considering the other as a fellow being for the any kind of help and the kind of care. Now, what is this further the idea of social care in the pluralistic, stratified and pluralistic society like India? And what comes in my mind, historically one needs to understand whether is there something called social care ingrained in Indian society for all, or the social care was more selective in approach or exclusively for the one particular privileged community. And I'll give the reference of Dana and Dakshina. It was not meant for the common man. It was not meant for the any the person or the individual belong to the so-called deprived section or lower caste. The Dan and Diksha, it was exclusively for the people belong to the Brahmin community. And that is what it comes in mind, that what was there then for the excluded community or structurally excluded community, it was absolutely, which is they were not even in that particular context of Dan and Diksha, because that was exclusively remained for the one particular privileged community. And here we need to understand the entire conceptualization of social care in the historically or ancient Indian society, which has been transcended after independence or after inception of the British rule in Indian context, that which has gone down to the other sections of the society which were not allowed to take any kind of benefit. So my what I have developed the perspective for this paper is that whether the social care is important in the domain of the state policy. However, during the calamities and during the pandemic, this particular social care itself provide you a scope and opportunity to develop a new paradigm to change your functioning in the society and quote and unquote to the civil society as well as to the state. And here I will say that the social care which changes over the period of time, but during the pandemic, it will provide you the scope to look at the society from more equality basis, look at the society from more human progress, or look at the society from the social transformation basis. So developing this particular perspective, I'll just take that you where this idea and this particular perspective from the Ambedkarian perspective to understand what was that incidence which has made Ambedkar to write something, his MA dissertation on administration and finance in East India Company, and his uh, other publications on the provisions of finance in British India, finances in the provisions of British India. These were the two publications, which is, if you can see it, particularly in the volume 5 and the volume 6, which is largely talking about. He has taken the perspective at the age of 24 by writing his MA dissertation that where this British government is plundering India, but then not contributing to the social care of the society. And that's what he wrote in those two publications by giving the reference of this particular Spanish flu of the 1918, uh, which is said that the similar uh, pandemic like COVID-19, which has occurred in 1918. And if you read the books by this Amit Kapoor, Riding the Tiger, and the Great Influenza by the John Barry, these two books talks about that almost around 1 crore 80 lakh people died between 1918 and 19 in India because of the Spanish flu. Similar symptoms like severe cold and cough, then more blood flow from the nostril and the ears, as well as it will severely affects the individual's lungs and the severe body ache. So it's during that period of between 1918 to 20, you will find in these two authors, they have mentioned that almost 1 crore 80 lakh Indians died because of Spanish flu. And according to same authors, there's around 10 to 20 crores of casualty occurred all over the world, including the Europe and then USA. What was the stand of this British government during this period? It is been said that the casualty because of Spanish flu in India, it was around 20.8% for per thousand population. In the Britain, it was 4.2% for per 10 for per thousand population. Despite of this, British government was sending all money for saving the life of their own citizen in London and not investing in any kind of social care as well as saving the life of the people here in India. And that is what it is, the kind of the situation which is made Ambedkar to write this particular thesis and these two publications. For your knowledge, if I can say that there were people and the personalities like the Hindi poet Nirala, Hindi literary figure Premchand, and even Gandhiji was infected by this Spanish flu. These authors also mention that the daughter-in-law of Mahatma Gandhi and his grandson also died because of Spanish flu. But then you will never find anything being written by other authors related to it. Uh, Even for that matter, the people were more busy with the other socio-political activities rather than they had talked about it. What further Ambedkar say, it is in this particular giving the reference of the Spanish flu, the more casualties were there among the female than the male folk. And the reason he quoted that, that is the as Indian tradition that the women's are not fed properly, they are malnourished, and moreover, during this period of time, they were more taking care of the male folk, and that is what the patriarchal society it is. That is what there was a more casualty was occurred among the female folk rather than the male folk. So what is it is it he was trying to understand? He said that there was the government which was not trying to help the population. Moreover, there was also the system which is there in the Indian society where the one particular sections of vulnerable sections like women suffered because of their traditionally poor condition. And at the same time, he said that during this Spanish flu pandemic, India was also doubly burdened with the famine and the drought. And because of that, people were not even having food and they were losing out their immunity power. And it is in this context he was trying to say that there was a need that the government should take the initiative and government should um, come forward to help the people by exclusively keeping aside the certain budget for the welfare of the population. But then, before I go into the government and the what he has said through this document in the volume number 6, he was trying to understand this entire pandemic uh, from two perspectives. One, from the perspective of good society, he has never used civil society. Rather, he has used a term called good society as well as more democracy. And within this democracy, he is trying to say, yes, equality, liberty, and fraternity. But then within this idea of good society, he was trying to say that pandemic gives you an opportunity to care and forget, first to forget about the past what has happened and live more on the equitable terms. Second, the pandemic gives you an opportunity to develop the associate feeling. Pandemic gives you the scope for contingent communication experiences, attitude for the respect all other people and the human beings. And it is also, he said that the pandemic is the situation where you can have a self control over yourself. And this self control, he has mentioned it in Buddha and Dhamma. And probably this self control is also very much relevant in the today's context of the coronavirus, where the term I don't favor, that is social distancing, rather physical distancing, which is more appropriate in terms by saying that you have to maintain the hygiene, you have to maintain the balanced health style, and at the same time you also maintain the self social control so that you should not be spreading any kind of disease among the others. So it is in this context what Ambedkar tried to say, that there is a good society get created during the such pandemic as well as during this kind of disaster, and this is the one way you can change the society and change the social and bring the social transformation within the society. My understanding of the Indian civil society is, again, it is more sectarian in nature. And this is where I say that in this good society, you may understand in a very sectarian context. that people belong to the one particular group and the community and the sect, they help their own group. Very few people had come to help those marginalized and the excluded population. Probably in today's context, it is not the situation because the civil society and the NGOs have been helping all migrant poor sections of the population irrespective of the caste, creed and whatever they have. But then this is what he has visualized, that the pandemic where you will forget and where you have to forget all your differences and work for the humanity, and that is where he said that it could be the good society will emerge. The second aspect towards the role of the state, and where Ambedkar talking about that the state during the pandemic, or state is the custodian of the social care, and this giving the social care through the various scheme programs and the policies. But at the time of the pandemic, the role of the state is to more concern about the hunger and the destitutions of the population, and for that purpose the extra budget and the relief schemes started with respect to the particular area. And when he said that the hunger and the destitution needs to be taken care and allocate the special budget to the relief scheme, he has categorically mentioned in the provisional finances of the East India Company, where that the special budget should be kept aside for the disaster relief. And he was more concerned about the disaster relief for the famine, and then the people those who are affected because of drought. So there he is talking about the concept of decentralization, where you will be having this strong state and the different kind of strong center, as well as committed state government toward the cause. And there this is what he is trying to say, that decentralization need to be created, where one policy fit all doesn't applies to the all state. Rather, different states in India should be given an opportunity to evolve their own programs and the activity in the context of their respective state. And that's what I say, that there is a scheme like one nation, one ration card scheme is applicable to the all during this COVID-19 pandemic, and it should be started looking into looking into the grave situation of the people and the migrant. But at the same time, the state should be given the enough of fund to start the program and relief mechanism at their own level. The second aspect where the Ambedkar talked about, if possible, the state should be allowed, or central government should allow state government to have extra taxation to get the relief mechanism, or extra taxation to invest more on the social care of the population at the time of the pandemic. So what Ambedkar is trying to take here perspective, that in general the state, which is the custodian of social care, but at the time of the pandemic, the same state and the civil society have an opportunity to bring a paradigm shift in their approach, so that they bring people and the society at the equal level, and they work for the human progress as well as they can work for the equality. The second, kind of insights from the Ambedkarian views and Ambedkar perspective is that the state need to curb down its or the government, central government need to curb down its power. Rather, it should give more leverages, more freedom to the state government to evolve and initiate its own mechanism for taking care of its own population or the affected population. More taxation need to be developed during this particular pandemic period, and disaster contingency plan and disaster contingency fund should be created by each state, looking into the severity and the problems of the problems of the pandemic, problems of the epidemic. So this is what the largely views of the Dr. Ambedkar related to social care, and how the social care can be ingrained in a new socio-political situation, and what should be the role of the civil society as well as state in order to prevent and protect population from this pandemic, at the same time work for the human progress as well as equality. Thank you. I stop here.
Thank you, Professor Patil, for informing us about all the modes we can extend help and care to ordinary common citizens of India during the time of pandemic. You have rightly said that the social distancing should have been physical distancing, and the intellectuals and the scholars have been reading their write-ups. They are also worried about if this social distancing would, during this time of pandemic, would create more inequalities in the society in the coming times. So in place of social distancing, there should have been physical distancing. Because we are already having so many inequalities in our society, which are not new. Right from Vedic societies and in ancient period, even during the time of early medieval period, when we teach the students about that there was caste proliferation and lower castes, the Shudras especially, they were having upward mobility in social hierarchy. So there was, as R.S. Sharma and B.D. Chattopadhyay, they have engaged in this discussion. So the difference then they found was not between a Brahmin, it was between Shudra and Shudra also. So if I believe that upward mobility was presumed, we don't find it at all in the contemporary society. Rather, we see it upside down, that all the higher upper caste people, in spite of so many provisions, constitutional provisions, they are still dominating, they are still patronizing the marginalized communities. So it is about these inequalities, I would like to say that they become apparent during the time of crisis, and the crisis we are facing now during this corona pandemic, these inequalities have been highlighted when help was extended to the homeless and jobless people, how people were thrown out from the job, laborers were thrown out of the job, and how state just shifted its responsibility by saying that employers should not remove their people from the job. So they did not make it illegal, I mean, if somebody is thrown out from the job. So it is how we are perceiving the inequalities which have been prevailing in Indian society. And now during the time of pandemic, Professor Ravindra Kumar will tell us about these inequalities during the time of pandemics, and how it was prescribed in Ambedkarian discourse, and what is the state of affairs in the time of this current pandemic. So let me introduce Professor Ravindra Kumar. Professor Ravindra Kumar is Professor of Sociology and Dr. Ambedkar Chair Coordinator, School of Social Sciences, IGNOU. He has been a director of National Institute of Social Sciences and Social Work. He was visiting fellow under UGC SAP of Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar University, Lucknow. He has authored 3 books and has edited 8 volumes. He has completed 12 research projects. He has published 57 research articles. He has been presenting papers in various national and international forums. He is a member of Indian Sociological Society and International Sociological Association. He has recently completed an ICSSR project, major project. the post-liberalization, rural transformation, study of rural society of Bihar. He has also designed a certificate course in on life and thought of P.R. Ambedkar in association with Dr. Ambedkar Foundation, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India. His interests are diverse. He is interested in social exclusion, Dalit studies, sociology of marginalization, and which are really meaningful if we really understand how these ideas operate in our society. So I welcome Professor Ravindra Kumar. I invite him for delivering his talk. Professor Ravindra Kumar. Amit, could you see Professor Ravindra Kumar? Hello, Amit.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I have asked him. Yeah, he's there.
Ask him to unmute.
No, he's unmuted, sir.
No. On the screen it is flashing that he's not unmuted so far.
Yeah, he's unmuted now. He unmuted him. He muted himself.
He
Kept him
muted
unmuted.
himself.
Yeah,
That's
so,
one thing that you tell him that he should unmute himself.
Ravinder, sir. Ravinder, sir.
There are two Ravindra already have
Phone
spoken.
phone karke batao. He's also poor in handling technologies.
I'm calling.
Yes, sir. Yes,
He's
sir.
there.
Ah, sir. I think you could not hear what.
Just a second. Just a second. Just a second.
Unmute him. Hello, Professor Ravindra Kumar.
Yeah, I am.
I
Hello, I am audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible.
I have already given a detail.
Thank you for Dr. Sadhya for giving me opportunity the webinar, and also thanks to the participant and also your principal who have given this opportunity to speak me before all of you. Friends, I was asked to present the pandemic COVID-19 inequality and Ambedkarian discourse. I heard Professor Eloni, Professor R. Patil, they all have spoken, but as a student of sociology, I also I will also present on this topic as a student of sociology. As you know, since 1991, we have adopted the new economic policy, and that from onward, we are in the LPG era, that is the liberalization, privatization and globalization. Mostly upper caste from the rural area, they shifted to the nearby the urban city and big city, and the backward caste and scheduled caste, they want to migrate to the urban area for their livelihood. For the upper caste, for the better quality of life, but the SCs and OBC, for their livelihood, they want to shift from the rural area to urban area. And if you take the example one, the folk song, the popular folk song, the Purvanchali, right of the Bhojpuri popular song, they used to song the rural, the wife, migrant laborer wife, she wants to go to the urban area and they sang the Pakka Pitwada Siya, Delhi Sahar mein, like that. Everybody, they want to move to the urban area. Why I am like that. After that, when the state has announced the lockdown, so what are the situation in this period? Before that, they obviously the Oxfam report, the 70% resources is only the few peoples, have the few peoples of the India. And after the pandemic, we will take here the three examples, what the policy makers and implementer and the state, what are their roles during the pandemic periods. So here we will take some example. The policy maker, in the pandemic era, the inequality has what we call the inequality is more visible. What earlier it was, but it was the not invisible, but now it is the more visible in the every walk of the life. You take the example, the policy maker, one MLA, one chief minister from Bihar, he was saying we not allowed anybody to enter in the area during the lockdown period. But one MLA from there, that is ruling party MLA, he brought his son from the Kota, and he used what the interstate pass. He arranged the pass from the SDM or SDO, and the government vehicles and bodyguards. Take the another policy maker. He had visited to the temple on April 4th in the temple along with the few people and along with the children in the temple when state has closed the temple. And another example we can take, the one he said, quote, you all should keep one thing in mind. I'm telling you openly, do not buy vegetable from the particular religious persons. You are fanning the hatred in the society. Take the example, the one implementer, what he was doing when her son came from the abroad, but without saying that quarantine him, she went to the mall and hosted the birthday party and moved from here and there. Later on, it is found that his son has the COVID positive. And now take the state action, how state is the pandemic, how they have the class division and healthcare inequality, revealing this all the healthcare inequality, the class division, and also the work laborer position. What are the laborer position? One laborer said, quote, I won't die of corona, before that I will surely die of hunger. That is by one of worker says the unquote. Means the laborers, what is the rights of the laborers? I am talking about that. You heard, are they, we in our preamble it is said, we are the people. The are that the laborers are the citizens of the India. If the citizens of India, that why they are not being taken care, and they have worked for the building of the cities, towns, and also we can say they are working for the building the nations. They are doing hard work, but state, where is the state? Why they are not taking care of it? I can also here give the one example of the Jamalo Makdam. She the 20-year-old, she died on April 18 to 2020, walking back from the chili field of Telangana to her home in the Chhattisgarh. Many people, they are walking to their rural area that we have seen. That's they are they are the nowhere the citizens of India. They have no rights and entitlements in the area in which they work and to whose prosperity they contribute. We, one example I am also giving the scheduled caste, the Pempur village of the Rampur districts of Uttar Pradesh, while he was spraying the sodium hypochlorite in the village, and during the spraying of this sodium hypochlorite, few drops sprayed on the so-called Savarna people. At that time, these peoples, they have sprayed this sodium hypochlorite in his mouth and he died. So my question is, are these sanitation workers are still today they are considered as a human being? When Ambedkar raised this question, when during the 1927, when he entered into the public life, he started the movement that is the Mahad Satyagraha. He tried to the scheduled caste is also the human being. That's why he started the Chaudhar time movement, where the enemy can take water, but the human beings can't take the water from that. That's why he, in 1923, the Bombay presidency, there is a 1923, all the public places are open for the untouchables and for the other sections of the society. But till see that in 1927, Ambedkar has started this movement, similar movement, temple entry movement in 1930, Kalaram temple entry movement. He had started that. So even you take the Supreme Court judgment, the testing kits of the coronavirus, the government has charged 4,500 rupees. Here, the government has, Supreme has given the direction you can't charge it for this high charge for the testing kits, and he has given the direction to see that what kind of the behavior of the state. My questions is, and that's why I'm highlighting this by these examples. And recently, the Orissa government has given the judgment that those people who have the positive coronavirus, positive symptom, they can't enter into the village. Only negative, those who have the negative taste of the coronavirus, they can only enter into the village. Rightly, Professor Aloni has said that even the Ambani in his own hospital, he can't be admitted. So, similarly, take the women. Women these days, during the lockdown period, there are reports of sharp increase in the domestic violence and the child abuse during the lockdown period. The Child India Helpline has received 92,000 calls asking for protection of children from the abuse and violences. Same thing, 2 days we are talking. We are to see that they are talking about the education through the online mode. In this, how many people have this broadband connection? How many people they have the internet connection, the electricity facility? If you take the NSSO data, 2017 and 19, it is said that it is highlighted the report said that only 24% of Indian households have the internet facilities, while 66% population lives in the rural area village. 15% rural household have access to internet services, and 42% urban household have the internet access to the internet, and only 8% of all households with members aged between the 5 and 24 have the computer and other internet connections. This is a scenario of the, if you take the Mission Antyodaya of the rural development recently conducted a survey during the 2017 and 18. They found that the 16% of India's household received 1 to 8 hours of the electricity daily, and 33% received 9 to 12 hours, and only 47% received more than 12 hours a day. This is the situation of the network. Now you can judge if the state is inducing the inequality or giving the parents, the poor, the lower middle class students and parents, they are going in the depression. How they can able to give the education to their children, and the so-called privileged class, they are propagating this online education like that. So this is the, and so my questions, we see that during this period, how the inequality is visible more. And now this is the stark inequality in that way. The same things Ambedkar volume 3 is out of what kind of system we have. In volume 3, right, Hindu social order, he said, is our system, is our order, social order is based on the principle of inequality, equality, and fraternity. And is it, this social order is based on the principle of regions. He said the social order is based on the principle of graded inequality, fixed occupation, fixation of people within their respective classes, like this. Similar thing, the volume 5, if you read the volume Untouchable, volume 5, Ambedkar has given that times he had collected the list of what to do or what not to do. He said, if somebody violates these rules, they will be punished. What are that? If the scheduled caste or the untouchables, their houses should be in the south direction. They are not entitled to take the to wear the good clothes, to take the ornament and the good houses. They are not entitled to sit before the upper caste. Like this, if you analyze what are the atrocities happening on that, the same thing the Ambedkar, all this the code of conduct he has collected during the times. These are the, still it is the relevant. And he rightly before me some Professor Eloni has also raised the gender questions. So we found that Ambedkar, while he was presenting in 1915 and 16, he presented the thesis on the caste, their mechanism, genesis, and development. How it is that during that time, Ambedkar has raised the gender questions in that. Gender questions. He raised how the caste was the caste, what is the genesis of the caste, how it is developed, how it is the mechanism. He talks of the how to maintain the surplus women. He talks of the sati system, how they are managing this kind. He says the superimposition of endogamy on exogamy is the main genesis, main region of the genesis of the caste, and how. And he also means the rise and fall of the Hindu women. There, what are the reasons for the low status of the women? He has mentioned, beautifully mentioned in that books. And 19, when he was the first law minister, that also why am doing the patriarchy and caste, they both are interrelated. because of that, the lower status of the women, because of this, today or earlier, the main reason of the lower status of the women. The Hindu code will, he suggested that times a abolition of the birthright and to take property by survivorship, giving share to the daughter, abolition of caste in matter of marriage and adoption, and principle of monogamy and principle of divorce. These are the main elements of the Hindu code bill, but that time it was not passed, and because of that, Ambedkar resigned from the cabinet. As a labor minister, that Professor Enoni has already talked, while he visited
I ask you to conclude. अभी एक speaker और है.
Hello. So that's why he, what was the labor's, he talked about low, so equal pay for the equal work, paid holiday, and the labor welfare fund was set up for the health insurance. He talks about that. During that time, the Mines Council, he has proposed all these things should be implemented for the laborers. And in State and Minority Book 1947, he has proposed a political and economic structure for India in the form of constitutional state socialism with a parliamentary democracy.
Professor Ravindra Kumar, may I intervene? Would you please conclude, because we have
just few minutes, 2 minutes.
Yeah,
1 minute. I am concluding.
I'm sorry.
So that's why his state socialism is not like the Marxist state socialism, and this was also highlighted by the. And he was the what we today we have the Naxal problem to the all this for this the land was the main cause of this problem. So that time he has suggested the agriculture should be the state. Agriculture would be the state industry, and he also suggested the collective farming. And on this note, I think what kind of society Ambedkar said, Ambedkar wants to build a society based on the principle of the liberty, equality, and fraternity. So what we found, the state today, nature of the state is still the casteist, and they are propagating inequality in the society because there is no diversification of all this the state and the implementers. So we should have the diversify this the implementer and others policymakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ravindra Kumar. I am once again sorry for interrupting you, but we have one more speaker, and you have rightly discussed the social discrimination which lower sections of the community, the marginalized communities have been facing in India since ages, and the solutions also you tried to propose. Now I think we have a different speaker who is actually from literature, English literature discipline. Literature is always, it has been mirror of the society, and how Ambedkarian discourses have been presented to us, to the readers, in form of different novels, stories, and literary other ideological books. So how scholars have been writing and rewriting about Ambedkar's ideology. Our speaker Mukesh Barwa will tell us about all those perceptions of Indian authors actually about Dalits. So Dalit studies is a special discipline these days when scholars are trying to read the mind of intellectuals, authors, and those who are into academics. So let me introduce our last speaker, Dr. Mukesh Barwa. He teaches English at PGTAV College of Delhi University. He has studied throughout from Delhi University. He was undergraduate and postgraduate student at Hastaf College, and he did his MPhil and PhD from Delhi University. His PhD thesis was based on Dalit novel. His area of interest include modern Indian literature, Dalit studies, and post-colonial theory. His topic today is epidemic, prejudice, and Ambedkarian hermeneutics of care. So I welcome Dr. Mukesh Perwa. Please join us for your talk.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. And hello, everyone.
Okay,
I'm
sir.
the last speaker. Although other
Okay,
panelists
sir.
have.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, your picture, your image is not visible properly. So just elevate, just adjust yours.
This
Yeah.
fine now?
Yeah. Now you're clear.
Yeah, other speakers have already delineated the major contours of the idea of care in the Ambedkarian discourse. So mine would be a different intervention, of course. First, I would like to say that we should not dismiss the Indian tradition and culture because we try to identify or equate Indian tradition only with the Brahminical tradition. See, according to me, the Indian tradition is primarily constituted of the Bahujan uh, thinkers and philosophers. So, if you look at the idea of care, it has been beautifully delineated and theorized to some extent by the Bahujan thinkers. And I would like to say that we can trace the origin of Ambedkarian hermeneutic of care, to the Bahujan critical tradition, beginning from Buddha. In this paper, I have tried to link this idea of care, the Ambedkarian idea of care, to the Foucauldian idea of care. So it is not just the idea of care; it is care of self as well. So that has been looked at in detail by the Bahujan thinkers, beginning from Buddha, Kabir, Ravidas, Chokha Mela, Tukaram, Mahatma Phule, Yotitas, and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Then I have tried to build my argument for theorizing this idea of Ambedkarian hermeneutic of care. See, all major outbreaks of pandemics in the world till now have taught us one thing, and Patil sir also touched upon it, and other panelists also talked about it, that it gives us an opportunity to think about ourselves. What kind of society we are? Are we an egalitarian society or not? Are we a democratic society or not? So depending on the ethical structure of a society, the culture of care that was prevalent in a society, this society responded to these crises in that way, depending on their idea of care. These pandemics, in a way, on the one hand, expose the economies of, let's say, capital, caste, and religion in different societies, but at the same time, they give us opportunities to reflect, to undergo introspection, not only of the society, introspection of the self as well. If you look at the most frightening pandemic, that was a European pandemic in 1347, which was called Black Death. In that pandemic, one horrifying thing happened. The Christians started targeting the Jews, and they launched a pogrom against the Jews. So that gives an idea that in these kind of crises, there's an attempt to create an abominable other. So it happened during let's say the Second World War in Germany. The Jews were branded as the other. They were seen in a very negative and stereotypical way. In case of India as well, what we have seen is, for instance, the Tablighi case was used as a pretext to demonize the entire Muslim community. Then, how the laborers, migrant laborers, they were pouring out of cities and moving towards back home. because they wanted to escape hunger and deprivation. So, these people who were stranded on, let's say, bus stops, they were walking in huge numbers on roads. Uh, they were seen as a spectacle of disorder and chaos to the state's attempt to contain coronavirus and bring things in order. And this arises from the middle class bourgeois obsession with let's say certain kind of care which is not accessible to the the majority, the poor and the oppressed. Yeah, if you look at Ambedkar's let's say attempt to intervene in this direction, Ambedkar uh, questioned the very idea of caste because of certain reasons. First, it killed social spirit. It denuded the caste Hindu subject of compassion, of love and kindness for others. Then caste killed the consciousness of kind as well. And without compassion and kindness, we cannot build a culture of care. So for Ambedkar, annihilation of caste was the most important let's say idea to build a culture of care. Recently, these terms were introduced like social distancing, self quarantine, and hygiene. Now, the point is, all these terms have caste and class implications, because if you go back to history, the idea of distance was deployed by the Brahminical forces to maintain the idea of purity and pollution. And in those times, the idea of abominable other was constructed by the ruling class. And there was a certain kind of hierarchy: the untouchable, the unseeable, and the unapproachable. So that kind of hierarchy was built up to let's say maintain the idea of distance. So this social distancing, as other speakers have also pointed out, this social distancing is a very problematic term, because by using it, what we are doing is we are legitimizing the traditional prejudices which are already deeply entrenched in our society against these oppressed and marginalized groups. And it currently what has happened is, even the COVID victim, anybody who's infected with this virus, how that victim has been seen. The victim has been seen as an abominable subject. He has been, or she has been stigmatized. Instead of receiving care and compassion, the victim has been completely othered, and which has done a lot of damage to the containment of this virus, because people were afraid of coming out and saying that yes, we are infected. So how the state approaches, how the society looks at things, that matters a lot. Then if you look at the idea of self quarantine, how do we expect the poor people who live in a lot of in shanties, for instance, people 8 to 10 people living in one room, so how do we expect them to let's say practice this idea of self quarantine? It is not possible for them. And what are the possibilities for a scavenger to let's say maintain hygiene when he has or she has to deal with dirt every day? So so these ideas like social distancing, let's say self quarantine and hygiene, these ideas have caste class implications. Now I'll come to the idea of care that was elucidated by Michel Foucault. Michel Foucault says that the idea of care implies concern for oneself and for others. That is one aspect. The other aspect is that it gives an opportunity to an individual to transform oneself ethically in relation to truth. So that is his another idea. Then while developing this idea of care, Michel Foucault refers to the ancients, and he talks about three traditions: the pre-Socratic tradition, which was according to him the tradition of confession, the Christian hermeneutic of care, that was largely centered around confession, and in that the subject was objectified. Then the Socratic idea of care. Then the third was the Roman and Hellenistic idea of care. In the Socratic idea of care, which was very important concern of Michel Foucault, and his idea of care is built around that. Uh, First one showed care for oneself, then one showed care for others, and then one examined one's thought and conduct, uh, and then one looked at one's own conscience while engaging in meditation and in ascetic practices to build an ideal self. So that was Socratic idea of care. And third, the Roman and Hellenistic idea of care was largely based on physical ordeal. So in these three ideas, Michel Foucault largely focused on the Socratic idea of care to develop his understanding of care. In the ancient understanding of care, the articulation of truth was very important, and for that one required courage. And so, the Greek term parrhesia was used to indicate this idea, and parrhesia means frank speech or fearless speech. So while expressing truth, while articulating truth to power, one actually constituted one's subjectivity freely. So it was basically a reflection of one's freedom, one's capability and freedom to fashion one's own self. And if you look at the entire Bahujan tradition, or let's say the Bahujan critical tradition rather, it was an exercise in parrhesia. It was, let's say, if you look at Mahatma Buddha, the entire Buddhist thought, it was an articulation of a different truth. It was, saying truth to power, because Mahatma Buddha rejected the entire, Brahminical tradition. Then, he tried to concentrate on the idea of compassion and care, karuna and maitri. These are very important terms in the Buddhist thought, because through compassion, kindness, we can, build a better society. We can reach out to people. Then, Buddha looked at, the idea of truth in a specific way, because without accessing truth, we cannot develop, an ideal self. So he, in fact, told his disciples also to be their own lamps and never depend on others. This reminds us of, Immanuel Kant also, the idea of enlightenment. He also said that, majority of the people could not attain enlightenment because they were largely dependent on the gurus and, the teachers who, did not want the major population to attain enlightenment, because these people did not want to exercise their reason. So exercising reason is very important to attain enlightenment and to understand the society. And in the Buddhist thought, one more idea is very important, and that is the idea of suffering. Now, Buddha says that understanding suffering is very important, because once you understand suffering, only then you can make an effort to alleviate others' suffering. And to reduce one's suffering, one has to liberate others from suffering. So, these ideas like compassion, kindness, the subject's relation to truth, and, understanding of suffering. These are important ideas in the Buddhist hermeneutic of care, which, contributes to the making of the Ambedkarian idea of care. Then, when we move further, when we look at, a medieval saint, the Bhakti saint Kabir. Kabir made a very powerful intervention because he spoke truth, and he challenged the power structure in those times. He challenged Brahminism and other power structures, and he said that he would not die in Kashi. He would like to die in Maghar, because there was a superstition which was propagated by the Brahmins in those times, that if one dies in, Kashi, then one goes to heaven, and if one dies in Maghar, then one goes to hell. So he challenged that entire, superstition, and he showed courage. So, Kabir, in a way, the way he acted was a very, very courageous intervention, and it was an act of parrhesia, to use the Greek term. And he said, कबीरा खड़े बाजार में सबकी मांगे खैर, ना काहे से दोस्ती ना काहू से बैर. So this idea of connecting with everyone, treating none as enemy, treating everybody as a friend, No, so this is a philosophical attempt to build the idea of care by Kabir. And when we move on to Ravidas, Ravidas wrote a poem, Begumpura, which was centrally based on the idea of care for others. Uh, he said that there should be a city without sorrow, where everybody can get equal and dignified space. So he says, ऐसा चाहूं राज में जहां मिले सबको अन्न, छोटा बड़ो सब संग सम बसे, रविदास रहे प्रसन्न. So in that Begumpura, he tries to conceptualize this idea of care, an egalitarian society based on the idea of care. And of course, Ambedkar's idea has been at length and extensively discussed by the other panelists, so I will not go into that, and which is very important. So I will say one line in that regard. Ambedkar's idea of Prabuddha Bharat, that is very important. Enlightened India. Enlightened India is not possible without our relationship with reason, compassion, and truth. So through compassion, reason, and truth, we can liberate the majority which is suffering. So that was Ambedkar's understanding of the idea of care. And if you have let's say carefully looked at Ambedkar's rejection of the Aryan theory, when he looks at the origin of caste system, he defines caste system as a social division of people who belong to the same race. Now, what logic he really marshaled there? What was the attempt actually? Basically, he wanted to first produce a moral guilt in the caste Hindu subject, that look, you are looking down upon, stigmatizing, and brutally treating your own brethren, your own fellow beings. So that was the first attempt. The other attempt was to build a culture of care, let's say, to create a sense of solidarity with the people, though they have treated Dalits and the Sudras so inhumanely, but he didn't want to leave any mark of permanent enmity there. So he in a way tries to question and reject that Aryan theory. So that is my reading. One can disagree with it. Then Buddha's the idea of Dhamma. I'll come back to Buddha. He says that Buddha's Dhamma is not just for a small spiritual elite. It is for the masses, because in Buddhist thought, the emancipation and happiness of the majority is the most important idea. And that's the idea was coined Bahujan Hitai and Bahujan Sukhai, and that is the the most important central idea of the Ambedkarian discourse of care: Bahujan Hitai and Bahujan Sukhai. So if you look at the entire critical tradition which emerged from these Bahujan thinkers, one thing is very clear, that these people challenged social hierarchies, but at the same time they did not leave these egalitarian ideas of love, compassion, and kindness for others. Yeah. Then we have to understand this, that this Ambedkarian hermeneutic of care hinges on our attempt to liberate others, because without liberating others, we cannot reduce our own suffering. And for that we have to understand what suffering is. And there Buddha's four noble truths are very important, because the recognition of suffering, it's philosophical and intellectual understanding, gives us an opportunity to let's say sympathize with others, the people who are suffering. So we suffer at three levels: at the at bodily level, at mental level, at spiritual level. So we may not be suffering all the time, but there is this sense of being alienated, of being ill at ease all the time. that sense pervades everyone, that permeates the entire society. And this sense of being, let's say being ill at ease, forces every individual to come together and form a sense of solidarity. And this current pandemic, in a way, has brought everybody together, and on this idea that all of us are suffering, and we cannot deal with this. We cannot, let's say, dispel this problem unless we come together as a solidarity, as one collectivity, and that is only possible through the the hermeneutic of care that is propounded, by the Bahujan thinkers, because the entire emancipation of mankind is possible through compassion, kindness, reason, and truth. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Mukesh Berwa, for talking about your, sensitivity of people, idea of care for yourself first, and then for people who are living with you in the society. So the whole point is that we should not be indifferent to the sufferings of people we find in the society. That was the idea of, I think, Buddha and of Dr. Ambedkar, because Dr. Ambedkar also said that indifferentism is the worst kind of disease, which can affect the people in very rigorous ways, I will say. So in this time of pandemic, we have really been sensitized by our esteemed speakers, and I hope that we will carry some message during this time, that we care for people, and we will in future also we will try to break the chains, as Baba Saheb always wanted people to break the chains forever. May it be chain of segregation, exclusion, social discrimination, and if we interpret in the current context, may it be the chain of infection of COVID-19. So, Amit, do we have time for questions?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, we can. We can take up questions.